Hello, I'm Bernard Keevy. I'll be going live in about a minute or so, talking about how you can close a lot more business by offering a 200% return on investment guarantee. So I'll just give it another minute or so because I said it'd start at 2 o'clock. So what we'll be talking about at 2 o'clock is how you, as a coach or an accountant offering coaching services, can guarantee a 200% return on investment guarantee from day one to your clients and how powerful that could be. So I'm Bernard Keevy, and today's topic is how to offer a 200% return on investment guarantee from day one, and I'm going to talk you through exactly how you can do that. Now, the first thing is that it's risky dealing with someone that you don't know and you haven't worked with before. So obviously people are nervous to commit, relatively large amounts of money to someone who they don't know whether they can help them or not. So if you can offer a really powerful risk reversal guarantee, then you can take all that risk away. And this is exactly how we're going to do this. So what I've got here are some figures for a typical business based on market averages. I did some research on the internet and what I found was that typically across a whole range of industries, the gross margin was typically in the range of 30 to 35%. So I'm working on a 35% figure today. And the operating or net margin is typically round about 11%. There are huge variances, but this is like a typical figure. So what do I mean by those terms? Well, a gross margin is the difference between what you sell something for and what it costs you to either buy it in or make it yourself. So it's the difference between the sale price and the variable cost, the cost that varies with your level of output and sales, which is sometimes called the cost of goods sold. So as I say, typically across a whole range of industries, if you charged £100 for something, then typically you'd be making 35% gross margin on it, $35 or pounds, and it would be costing you 65 to make it or buy it in to sell. And then typically, if you take off all your other fixed costs, they're known as, or overheads, you would end up with a bottom line operating profit net margin of 11%, which is the figure we're working on here. So this is things like, so the fixed overheads are things like wages, salaries, rent rates, utility bills, sanitation bills, all those sort of things. Whereas the variable costs, they tend to be things like components, raw materials, goods that you've brought in, maybe license costs and direct membership costs and costs that you have to actually pay. So if you sell twice as much, then these costs will be twice as high as if you sell half as much. They're in direct proportion. So looking at this example, which I've made to resemble a £1 million or dollar business, because again that's a sort of I suppose a benchmark for the small business market. So what we're saying is we're starting off with 1,000 leads and a 50% conversion rate, which means we'd end up with 500 customers. And then if they each bought 4 times a year and spent 500 each time, we would end up with a revenue figure or a turnover figure of £1 million. And if our variable costs are 65%, as we just said, to give us a gross margin of 35%, then our variable costs would be 650,000, which means we've got a gross margin of 35%, 350,000, and a gross profit of 350,000. So fixed costs are 240,000, as we said, things like rent, rates, wages, salaries. So our operating profit is 11% or 110,000, 11% of our turnover figure. And that's our starting point. So does that make sense? Hopefully it does. And if you think at any stage that you didn't quite follow the figures or the argument, or you don't think I've explained it very well, please say. And if you think it's a really good point, again, if you could say and share and like, that would be brilliant as well. Now, this is where our strategy comes in of our 200% return on investment guarantee. Because all we're going to do initially is we're going to look at our costs, our cost of goods sold, or our variable costs, and our overheads, and we're going to see if there's any way we can make small savings in them. And all we're looking for literally is a 5% reduction in our costs of goods sold and a 5% reduction in our overheads. And these figures here, I can show you 6 different ways to save on your variable costs, excuse me, and at least 10 or more different ways you'll be able to save on your fixed costs. So what we do is we get all the invoices out, the credit card statements, all the subscriptions that we're paying for, and we look at all those areas and we see to ourselves whether it's possible just to find 5%. Now, you'll know very early on whether that's possible or not. So this guarantee, the 200% return on investment guarantee, is to some extent very low risk for you as well, because although it's a powerful risk reversal guarantee, you're not really committing, too much, because your initial assessment will be whether you think there's scope to make these cost savings, and typically there will be, generally there will be. But the interesting thing is, if you can make 5% there and there, look at the difference it makes. So these ticks just mean that I'm working on exactly the same leads, conversions, sales, transactions figures as before, so I haven't changed any of that. All I've changed is the variable costs. We've reduced them by 5% to 617,500, and we've reduced the overheads to 228,000. Now the impact of doing that is our gross margin goes up by 3% to 38% because our variable costs are lower, and we end up with an operating net profit which is 38% higher or 42,000 higher. Now, depending on what fees you charge, that 42,000 in and of itself would be enough for you to be able to honour your guarantee for the whole year. And we're only looking at, each month at a time. So you haven't got to find all that money straight away. So you can see how powerful this is. So just 2 small reductions of 5% means that we found an extra 42,000 for this business, which is a 38% increase on their bottom line. And that can be done very quickly because you'll be able to look at their costs and outgoings straight away and see what potential there is for saving and then log them. Even if the cash doesn't come in straight away, at least you'll have demonstrated that you've made these savings. But it goes beyond that, of course, because we can then start to work on making improvements to other key numbers. So now, this third column here, all I'm doing here is making a 5% increase, literally just a 5% increase on how many leads we generate. And then we've got over 20 strategies we can use there, over 20, all of them that work, and we're only looking for a 5% increase there. Similarly, can we increase our conversion rate by 5% to 52.5%, which again, we've got over 20 ways of doing, 20 strategies, more than 20 strategies to do that. That would increase our customers by 10%, believe it or not, up to 551. Now, could we get them to buy more often? Again, there's 20 different strategies we can implement to make that happen. Whole range of ways of doing it. More frequent offers, having cross-sells and upsells. There's so many ways we can do that. But again, we're only looking for a 5% increase. And again, we're looking for a 5% increase in our average price. And we can do that, again, there's probably more than this, but I can think of at least 12 ways of doing that, ranging from adding in extra value, getting rid of discounts, having platinum, gold, silver packages, and there's various other options as well. You can charge slightly more, put your prices up. It's a whole range of things you can do. But again, we're only looking for 5%. And look at the difference this makes. So each of these figures is simply a 5% improvement on the figures over there, but we've ended up now with a gross margin that's gone up to 41% from 38. We've ended up with a gross profit of 500,000 instead of 350,000, so that's gone up by a third. And we've ended up with a net margin, operating net margin of, instead of 11%, 22%, so we've doubled our net margin, and we've ended up with a bottom line operating profit of, instead of 110,000, it's now 272,000, which is a 148% increase. Now, bear in mind that I started with figures that were typical for a whole range of industries across the board as averages, i.e. the 35% gross margin and the 11% net margin. And it doesn't matter what the business is or what the industry is, you find these small 5% savings, you'll make a dramatic difference to the bottom line. And the 200% return on investment guarantee, you'll be able to find that very, very quickly, and you'll be able to give it with confidence, because the caveat could be that you need to see the books and you need to analyse their numbers before you can finally agree to it. So you say, I'll guarantee you a 200% return on investment, if you work with me, but I need to see your books first to make sure that you're eligible. So that's how you position it. So you can see how powerful this is. Now, does that sound like something that you think could help you sell more business? And if so, you know, if you've got any comments or observations, it'd be great to hear them. Obviously, if you can put something in the notes, that would be great. The other thing is, if you wanted to find out more about how all this works and how you can give this 200% return on investment guarantee, if you have a look at my website, which is coachforprofit.com/Bernard, Bernard, you'll see there's a video on there which basically explains about our online e-marketing system, which is a whole database and academy, if you like, of marketing and sales strategies and tactics, resources, templates, etc. So everything you need to do all this is all in there, including an extensive hour and a bit presentation of exactly how you can find these sort of improvements and these sort of numbers for any business. So if you think this could be powerful and could work for you in terms of closing more clients, signing up more clients, then that's great news. And you know, if you think this is effective or something that you can use, if you could like it, share it, and have a look at the video on coachforprofit.com/Bernard, I'd be really grateful. So thank you for tuning in. I don't think there's any comments or questions yet, so we'll leave it at that. But as I say, this is how you can offer a 200% return on investment guarantee from day one. And if you do, you've made it a no-brainer. You've taken out all the risk of dealing with you, and therefore, why wouldn't someone sign up? Because they can't lose, can they? You're offering to make them twice the amount of money it costs them to work with you. So that's Bernard Keevy. Hope you found that interesting and useful, and I'm intending to return to this theme tomorrow and the day after as well, and give you a bit more information. So thanks very much for watching, and thank you very much, Dan Kruglio, for your observations. Good point and great. Hope you found that informative. Thank you very much.